Good evening and welcome to Story Hour. I'm Laura Blackwell, tonight's host. Story Hour has been here every Wednesday for about the last 2 years, thanks to Daniel Marcus, who started it so he could hang out with his writer buddies and read stories to each other. And over these last 2 years, it's grown and brought in many more writer buddies, some writers we admire and don't even really know, and made buddies of some of them as well. So it's really going very well for us. We're enjoying it. Tonight, we are welcoming back one of our most popular writers, Michelle Belanger, and welcoming one of our soon-to-be most popular writers, Eugenia Triantafyllou, who also got up to read for us from Greece, where it is 5 a.m. So, and those of you who've been here before, welcome. You know how this goes. Those of you who haven't, you're welcome as well. And you may be interested to know that it's always two writers, always reading for nonprofits. And then we just get into reading the stories. Michelle Belanger is reading for the Critical Role Foundation. Since Critical Role began sharing stories online in 2015, one of its guiding principles has been to use its platform to create good, both in local communities and in the world at large. The world at large could certainly use it right now. Critical Role Foundation selects and partners with outstanding nonprofit organizations that carry the same values it does and works closely alongside each of their partners to ensure that every dollar raised is going toward programs and projects that are changing the world for the better. You can learn more at critroll.com/foundation. Eugenia Triantafyllou is reading for, I'm going to take a stab at this. It's a Ukrainian word, letyaha. It's spelled Letjaha in Roman letters, and it means flying squirrel. Letyaha is a network of assistance for people fleeing the war, created by activist groups and collectives in Krakow, Poland. They provide transport to Krakow and other Polish cities from the border, arrange housing, and actively support activists working in Lviv and Kiev. Your donations will help pay for the fuel and the car fleet, as well as phone bills and pay phone bills and buy supplies as requested by friends in Ukraine. There is a fundraiser address and also a PayPal address. They are both a little too complicated for me to read out usefully, so I will drop those in the chat in Zoom and Facebook. Speaking of which, if you're here on Zoom, feel free to leave your camera on. It can be really nice for our readers to see your lovely faces. And chime in on the text chat on the right, all you like. If you're on Facebook, sometimes we get a little discussion there as well, but it's not quite so closely monitored, so you may miss out a little bit. We still love you. And our first reader tonight is Eugenia Triantafyllou. I've been practicing and yet still. Eugenia Triantafyllou is a Greek author and artist with a flair for dark things. Her short fiction has been nominated for the Ignite, Nebula, and World Fantasy Awards, and she is a graduate of the Clarion West Writers Workshop. You can find her stories in Uncanny, Apex, Strange Horizons, and other venues. She currently lives in Athens with a boy and a dog. We're very happy if either of them want to pop in. Find her on Twitter at Foxes and Roses or her website, eugeniatriantafyllou.wordpress.com. Eugenia, welcome.
Hello, nice to be here today, tonight, this morning. Who knows what is time even?
I think it's different for all of us today at this point in time.
Probably. So I'm gonna read a short story that was published in Strange Horizons. It's called We Are Here to Be Held. Should I mention any content warnings, trigger warnings? Okay, so trigger warning for disregard for personal autonomy, body transformation, child abuse, pregnancy, suffocation, and vomit. It's not as bad as it sounds. Anyway, okay, here we go. The first time your mother swallows you whole, you don't really see it coming. It's an autumn afternoon, and you return from school, from the games, from the company of girls and boys unsuspecting. You've heard the rumors, of course. Children who one day play by your side, and the next one, they're gone. Adults who shuffle through the world like newborns, eyes empty, hungry, walking unsteady. Still, you didn't think it would happen to you. Before she devours you, Mother stares at you with impenetrable eyes. Impenetrable because you haven't yet mastered the skill of reading your mother's face. You're not ready to be born yet, Mother tells you, so I'll keep you here in my mouth until the time comes. The thing is, you've already been born once, 12 years ago. You're not sure of it, even you're sure of it if you don't even if you don't quite remember. You try to tell this to Mother, but her mouth encompasses you fully and from all sides. The skin surrounding your curled body is sticky, warm, and insulated. Your words choke inside your mother's throat. They slide down her gullet, a place you don't want to go. So you clutch tightly at the meaty bulges of your mother's tonsils and pray for the time of your second birth to come fast, like waking from a dream. When your mother spits you out at last, your anatomy has changed. Your bodies frame your body in different angles. Breasts bulge from your chest, and warmth runs between your legs and rivulets. The clothes she swallowed you with were digested a long time ago. Your mother appraises you as you stumble to your feet, learning how to walk all over again. See, this is what I was afraid of, she says, pointing at your unfolding body. She has lost weight since you saw her last, and fine lines have burrowed their way onto the surface of your skin. Her voice rings different on the outside, clear, less guttural, a lullaby no more. I've managed to keep you safe a while longer. Now you're on your own. You learn to walk again, put your feet next to one another, and extend them into a different gait. People notice you in different ways, and sometimes you notice them back. Your voice is not lilting anymore. It has the warm, resonant quality of a woman. It startles you, and yet you quickly learn to cloak your words in dulcet tones. So you pick up your life again, right where you left it. You study and you work. You call your old friends, trying to fill in the gaps, learn the new rules of the game. Some of them agree to meet you, are even teary to hear your voice, no matter how altered. Others don't have time for someone they left behind long ago. Still others are just gone, vanished. You don't need to ask where. It's an instinct, a feeling that if you walk down the brick-ringed alleyway to where their house used to be, you'll catch a glimpse of them, squirming inside a bag of veiny skin, an extension of a parent's neck. You prefer not. Until one day, a man finds you. You meet him at work, and he offers to help you. He is doe-eyed and tender, but the thing you notice first is the smell. It is a damp and close scent that tells you he is just like you, a child born twice. How long ago, you don't ask. You know the weight of this memory. It still presses down on your bones. He is kind and stoic, and that's what you need. You move in with him into your own apartment that smells of lilies and things untouched. After a while, you see changes in your body, your belly, your breasts. Your insides separate to make room for something new to grow and thrive. You should be happy, but all you are is petrified. The stale smell of a wet cocoon surrounds you. You plant more lilies in the balcony, fill the vases in the house with fresh peonies, and hide some paquitas under your pillow. Yet the smell eventually reaches him, and he shivers and looks at you like he doesn't recognize you anymore, like your body is a trap. He flinches as your jaws open and close, backs away into another room, and locks the door shut. You press at your belly, although it's still too early, with hate and indignation. It's not full yet, not ready, but it will be. Your jaws unclench just a tad, tendon and sinew become a little more malleable, preparing. The next morning he is gone. You sit at the kitchen table shedding tears like the peonies shed their heart-shaped petals. An urge grasps at you, a longing for your mother's warm interior. You run to her. Her house is an old brownstone in a decayed part of the town. Nobody really goes there anymore, not ever since you left. The smell still lingers, but now the pungency has turned a little sweeter, the dampness warm and comforting. You're home. There is a moment where you stop before you walk up the stairs. Soon it will be too late. The unbearable pressure of being part of someone else's body surfaces from your memories and scrapes at your mind. You shiver, but you go inside. You find mother slicing the flesh of apples and melons and humming to herself. She takes one look at you and she knows. What are you doing here, girl? She asks. I thought you have built a life for yourself. There is bitterness in her voice, a distant sadness. You hesitate, not knowing if you're welcome, but soon you collapse on the faded upholstery of a living room chair. It was hard enough to come here, a desperate move. You might as well admit it. I want back in, you say. This world, I don't understand it. She smiles, doesn't say a word more. She just opens her arms and mouth and takes you in. You and your unborn child. Her interior smells like a rotting fish. You dare not ask mother what her meals consisted of all this time. The image of a pelican springs to mind. You keep your nose closed and you breathe through the mouth for the entirety of her pregnancy and yours. Your belly keeps growing inside your mother, expanding, a live matryoshka doll trudging around the empty house. Your mother is not as young as she used to be. The skin of her jowls and neck becomes baggy and slack. She does her best to conceal it. She leaves the house clad in scarves, turtlenecks, and coats with high collars. You feel the pressure of the fabric and the surface of her skin. It stifles you. As your body pushes at your mother's esophagus, your baby's feet thrust against the tip of your belly. You rest your hands softly on the distended skin, and for the first time, a seed bars inside your heart. The beating synchronized, 3 hearts as one. You are more. You croon your baby to sleep, your jaws flexible, your mouth limitless. This time you can't wait to be born, so you can kiss your baby's cheeks, caress its velvety skin, and hear its gurgling laughter, and also breathe. A sharp pain makes you writhe and punch against the walls of flesh that surround you. Your mother moans. You moan too. Get me out, you scream. Get it out! The birth is not easy. It leaves you curled on the carpet in a puddle of blood and lint. Your child, baby girl, is nestled in your mother's shaky arms, clutching tight at the folds of her skin. I hope your jaws are strong, daughter, she says, as your baby screams and flails. Your insides churn at your words. You take the baby, press her tightly against your chest, and kiss her little head. This tiny creature is your strength now, and in turn, you will make her stronger than you, smarter. I will never do that, you say. Your voice quivers, weak, but resolute. I won't hide the world from her. Your mother shakes her head. Her cheeks wobble to the movement. We'll see about that. Your daughter grows in a split second, it seems. She slides through your life as if it were paved with ice. All the while, a great need burns inside you, a little voice in your head. Open your mouth. Welcome her. but you don't. Even though your ligaments feel sticky and soft like quicksand, and there's so much welcoming space in the cavity of your mouth, and even more in your throat. Every time you open your lips to call to her, be careful. Don't run so fast. Don't play so hard. Don't let the other kids push you around. The need returns, more pressing than ever. Yet you don't do it. Instead, you fight with her. You try to stifle that voice in the vibrato of your screams. She doesn't see it. She looks at you hurt and she slowly drifts away. Good, you think. She's safer that way. What your mother never told you is that she was afraid to lose you, so she kept you in the safest place she knew, inside her own body. Was she wrong? Would it change something if she hadn't? Even now, after all these years, the tug is still there. They need to walk up the mossy stairs of the brownstone, open the door, and curl like a baby inside silky, wet flesh. Your daughter is grown now, and she knows a sea of things more than you. She ambles through the world with an ease you never had, until one day she has to leave you. And you, of course, you let her. Her school is taking her miles away, a distance not even your ever expanding muscles could cover. You say goodbye and I love you, not in so many words. You stand behind her as she packs her things and glance out to the endless road stretching up ahead, restless, keeping to yourself. Her tears fall on her burnt copper suitcase. You reach for her. As if she knows, she turns and takes your hand. Then you see it in her eyes, in the flash of a second, understanding. You let her kiss you softly on your supple cheeks. They quiver and sigh to the touch, but you pat him with your hand to be quiet one last time. Thank you, Mom. She smiles. She knows what you did for her. What you didn't doesn't matter now. She's free. Alone in your half-lit apartment, you feel the urge to return to your mother, but you don't go. Instead, she comes to you. One day, you smell the familiar scent of your old home and open the door. She's standing right there at your doorstep, her skin cracked and loosened, but still retaining the ability to permute and stretch. You let her in. You sit at the kitchen table and pour her tea. She hugs her cup with her scaly old fingers and glances at you. Well, she says, gesturing at your skin settled neatly on your face and your bulging clavicles. You did it after all. I did. You nod. Dampness gathers at the corners of your eyes. Your mother shifts in her place, looks down at her lap, and then looks up again. I've been so lonely without you, she mumbles at last. So very lonely. Me too, you say. Your voice softens. Admitting this, especially to your mother, feels easier than you thought it would. I don't suppose you would. Her voice trails off, but you know what she means to say. Your nose catches a whiff of intimate humidity. Your eyes are trained to look for the shifting of skin and sinew on someone's face. For a moment, there is a pull in your chest, a hurtful longing for past ways. Then a pause. This is not you, not anymore. Your cheeks are becoming more solid as time passes. You exhaled a long-held breath and the air changes. An almost forgotten scent wafts inside the room. Lilies and peonies and sampaguitas. You haven't bought those flowers in 20 years, yet the smell has always been there, waiting underneath, when you'd be ready, once the dampness subsided. You look at your mother with clear eyes, at the quivering of her lips, the deep lines of her forehead. She's not so young anymore, and not as headstrong. She wants to be close to you, but doesn't know how. You take her hand in yours, but you stay where you are. The end.
That was beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We like to take a breath between the stories, and sometimes we really need it. Some of the stories need another moment to finish soaking in. Our next reader tonight is Michelle Belanger. Michelle Belanger is an occult expert, presenter, singer, media personality, psychic, and author of over 30 books on paranormal and occult topics. Michelle has been featured on TV shows, including A&E's Paranormal State and the Travel Channel's Portal to Hell, as a psychic medium and occult expert. Michelle offers classes and weekend retreats on psychic development at Inspiration House in Oberlin, Ohio, a 150-year-old house with the coziest haunting you could hope to find. To learn more about Michelle's work, start by exploring michellebelanger.com, where you will find books, music, and classes both online and at Inspiration House. Follow Michelle at Twitter at Sethany Keem, YouTube at Sethany Keem, or join Michelle's community at patreon.com/haunted. Michelle, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back. I'm going to dive in very quickly because this one is going to be like right under the wire. And it is from the collection of Aaron French, The Demons of King Solomon. We all got assigned a different demon of the Goetia to write a story about. The content warning for this one is an abusive relationship. And gaming, but you don't really need a warning for that. It's called Whimsy. Rashida summoned the demon on Saturday, just before dinner. Hunter was on his computer across from her, and he looked up when a thunder of sound poured from her speakers. He was in the middle of a raid with his gaming guild, so she was surprised he looked up at all. A backwash of brilliance danced across her features as special effects blazed on her screen. The candles around the virtual summoning circle vomited gouts of blue and purple fire, while the sigil in the center crackled with dazzling power. "What was that?" he asked. You'd have to see it to understand," she said, "and you're busy." His fingers hammered the keys in an endless repetition of fight maneuvers. "Don't give me that shit, Rashi," he snapped. "I've been gaming way longer than you have. Just tell me what game you're playing. You think I can't figure it out from there?" The insect murmur of disembodied voices buzzed from the headset curled around his ear. His tone changed as he responded to his guild. "No, nothing, just my girl again." He whacked the space bar 4 or 5 times in rapid succession, then shoved back from the keyboard, grinning wide through his beard. Hoots and shouts crackled from the headset. "Booyah!" he cried. "Good fight, guys. We'll start for the next boss in just a minute. Smoke break." When he rose from his chair, the smile had vanished. "What are you even playing these days?" Rashida quashed an unreasonable urge to alt-tab so she could hide her game. Not that he wouldn't know that trick. He used it all the time when the guild chatter got particularly crude, as if he were saving her from something. On her screen, the dazzle of light cleared, and a nude figure crouched in the shadows of the circle. It looked like it was draped in a tattery cloak, and then she realized those were supposed to be wings. Her fingers hovered above the keyboard, eager to welcome the new being, but then drew away to curl in her lap as Hunter strode over. He put a calloused palm on the back of her chair, and the base creaked beneath their combined weight. Beard hairs tickled her ear as he peered over her shoulder. "Oh," he declared, "you're still playing Whimsy? No wonder you didn't want to admit it." He grabbed her Coke and took a swig, grimacing when he found it warm. "I like how every player helps to build the game," she said. "Then you're an idiot." He slammed the Coke next to her keyboard like the can was responsible for the sad state of its contents. Wordlessly, she moved it to its coaster, dabbing the spatter from her screen. That game's got zero population. Half the other players are bad AI, more than half. Why would you even bother? Rashida stared at her fingers where the skin faded from brown to cream, the pigment feathering in the creases around her knuckles. The demon summoned by her virtual self waited, patient and strange as tectonic drift. I've got to play something, and your friends kicked me out of the guild. What were we supposed to do? He retorted. You weren't pulling your own weight. Maybe he put too much emphasis on the final word. She couldn't be certain, but she tugged her shirt down over a strip of exposed belly anyway. I don't really like Blasteroid, she said. It's too violent. This one's pretty. Hunter frowned at her screen. The figure in the circle hunched in on itself as if the program sensed her boyfriend's derision. The graphics suck, he said, but whatever, you do you. He patted her shoulder once. I'm on a smoke break. Make sure dinner's ready by 7. We'll be done with this level by then until someone totally shits the bed. She made spaghetti, quick and easy. He complained that there was no meat in it, but she'd used all the ground chuck for his hamburgers the night before. She tried telling him this, but he didn't want to hear it. He just stormed from the table and went back to his gaming rig. As Blasteroid loaded, the opening fanfare of the space opera sounded through their cramped living room. I thought you were done raiding for the night? She called over the sound of dishes. The water was nearly scalding. She cranked it even higher. Pris and Jakala have a meeting. Guild business. I need quiet for a few hours. A flurry of clicks erupted from his mechanical keyboard, the sound a staccato counterpoint to the rush of running water. ERP, she asked. More of that erotic roleplay? He scowled over the top of his monitor. The expression made a tuft of his beard jut forward like a frizzy tongue. You said it wasn't a problem, Rashi. Maybe he only yelled so she could hear him. It was loud in the kitchen. You gonna make it a problem? She put the bowl aside. No, she said firmly. With one nail, she dug at a bubbled smear of red sauce that had dripped down the chipped enamel of her main cooking pot. The water practically steamed from the spigot, making her hands prickle. She found the immediacy of the sensation soothing. While he clacked away in chat, she watched as the water brought color to her palms and nail beds, pink, then nearly crimson. His erotic role play hadn't seemed like a problem a few months ago. He had explained it as how his guild built storylines for their characters in between raid events when the system locked them out of the dungeons so they couldn't just power through to the end. She'd tried the text-based role-playing a little herself and found it was a lot of fun. It reminded her of fan fiction, which she loved reading, but the fun abruptly ended when the guild voted her out because she couldn't do enough damage in the actual battle portions of the game. Pris and Jakala are a legitimate part of my character's storyline. We've been water bonded in game long before I met you, he said. She hadn't noticed when he'd stopped typing, but now he stood right next to her. She scrubbed the pan a little harder, not quite flinching when he reached for her wrist. He caught her look and turned away with the sound of disgust. You're going to be a pussy about it, he muttered. A moment later, he was right back at the machine, adjusting his ponytail as he slipped the headset over his ear. Heat washed over her face and arms, and she tried to understand what she'd said or done wrong. She hadn't meant to pull away. He had to know that. Maybe I can read over your shoulder while you guys do your thing, she ventured. A little precariously, she balanced the spaghetti pot over the other dishes crowding the drying rack, waiting to gauge his reaction. Don't you think that's a little weird? He snapped. Before she could frame an answer, he bent to his screen and started typing. It was only text and pixels, but still, she felt a stab of jealousy. She told herself she was being stupid. Her romance novels were just as steamy and none of that was cheating. They'd discussed this before. Maybe if she hadn't flinched, but he'd surprised her. Is it okay if I take the laptop? She asked. I'll go play in our room and give you a little privacy. Eyes intent on the scrolling letters of his chat box, Hunter didn't even answer. She dried her pruny fingers on a dishcloth, then took the laptop anyway. As she closed the door to their bedroom, she heard the sound of his zipper. Just words on a screen. The acid reflux burning at the back of her throat tasted like surrender. The demon was waiting exactly as she'd left it, huddled in upon itself in the circle of summoning. The spirit stone that she'd spent the better part of 2 weeks searching for in-game lay on the bricks beside it, its pearlescent surface blackened and all its magic spent. She'd had a feeling it was a one-use item, although none of her Google searches of the game had really been able to definitively confirm this suspicion. If any players but her had managed to activate a spirit stone like this before, none of them had written about the experience. Slender and flawless, her purple-skinned avatar sat cross-legged across from the demon's summoning circle. With the laptop perched on her belly, Rashida spread her fingers over the keys, ready to bring her alter ego back to life. Then she halted. This was stupid. There wasn't even anybody on the other end. Hunter was right about that. Whimsy was supposed to be an interactive game with all of the other characters and even the monsters played by other users, but the game's population had seriously declined. A lot of characters were nothing but empty pixels, bots at best, repetitive, stilted in their dialogue. She tabbed out, careful not to close completely. The laptop was loaded with games, but all of them were first-person shooters or player versus player arena types, and she really wasn't into any of those. On the nightstand, a solitary paperback with a cracked spine beckoned with its dog-eared pages. But she'd read that story so often she could recite the next line before she finished turning the page. Briefly, she poked around on YouTube, but nothing grabbed her attention. She wanted a good story. All the other books were out in the living room with Hunter and his guild. Pushing the laptop aside, she heaved off the bed and opened the door just a crack. Except for the spectral blue flicker of his screen, the rest of the apartment was dark. Beyond the expansive barrier of his 29-inch monitor, she couldn't see anything but the top of Hunter's head, though she knew that hitchy pattern to his breathing. She was loath to intrude upon his role play. It was obviously going good on his end. I bet he won't even notice me if I walk out there. That thought made her retreat instantly into their room. The sour sting at the back of her throat blossomed into the pain of heartburn. Stupid red sauce. But she knew it was more than that, and it had been building. They were both gamers and spent most of their free time behind a screen, while they'd been in the same guild that hadn't felt like distance, but now they were spinning away into separate orbits. Maybe she could talk to Hunter about the ERP and how that was excluding her, but not tonight. He'd be pissed as hell if she interrupted. After coffee tomorrow, she thought. He'll be in his best mood after coffee. Softly closing the door, Rashida reclaimed the laptop and dropped onto her bed. The mattress sagged in the middle. Neither she nor Hunter were tiny individuals, and it took a lot of fluffing of the pillows to make herself comfortable. Grabbing her earbuds off the nightstand, she opened the tab for Whimsy again and tried to sink into the scene before her. The underground chamber, the flicker of candle shine against rough-hewn walls, the steady drip of moisture from the haunted lake above. She flexed her fingers and typed. By what name shall I call you? And in the realm of Whimsy, where all things were possible, her character Avila spoke the words in a bubble of purple text that matched her magic-infused elven skin. The demon's head snapped up, a cascade of black hair sweeping stiffly away from unexpectedly human features. He was both beautiful and terrible, with red slitted eyes and golden horns and a mouth pursed for kissing. You who have summoned me hence should know the answer to that question. No sound issued through the system to give life to his voice. Whimsy was free to play, and voice actors were an expense the developers refused to indulge. But Rashida had imagination enough to hear him through the text. Deep notes, velvety and resonant, nothing at all like Hunter's. Nevertheless, I demand that you confirm, she typed. She made Avila stand and pace throughout the chamber, ever careful not to cross the boundaries of the circle. With all the steps of the spell already enacted, she didn't know what could possibly go wrong at this point, but it still felt right to use caution. She didn't want to have to hunt down another spirit stone to start all over again. Fingers swift upon the keyboard, she entered the code that made her character haughtily toss long waves of emerald hair. She loved that emote. I am the one who wields the power here. You must give me answer. Did the image of the demon smile then? Perhaps it did, and perhaps that too was her gift of imagination. She was so immersed she could almost feel the damp of the underground chamber clinging to her skin. The steady drip, drip grew louder in her earbuds along with the subtle crackle of the candle flames. I am called Marcosius, lady, and I am at your service now and for however long you may wish. On the screen, the image of the demon bowed, deep enough that the tattered ends of his wings swept the rough stones of the floor. You do me obeisance as is proper, demon spawn, she wrote. But what am I to do with you? Avila halted awkwardly in her circuit, nearly face-planting into a wall, as Rashida fumbled with the trackpad. Movement was so much easier with the mouse on her desktop. Quickly, she got the character back on track, but her immersion was broken. Piping words through her fur-clad digital proxy, Rashida made fun of herself, knowing Hunter would do the same if he saw her trying to roleplay with AI. Here I am, talking with a being that is mere illusion. She typed and made Avila do the hair flip emote again, though this time she felt it ironic. You are not present in this chamber any more than I am, so what could you possibly do for me, Demon Marcosius? Unexpectedly, the figure at the center of the circle threw his head back and laughed. It was different from the laugh emotes that she'd seen on similarly built characters, and she thought she'd seen them all. You think I am a program, he wrote. The words hung white on black in his demon cursive chat bubble. You're not? She asked, surprised enough that she didn't catch the typo until after hitting enter. Immediately, her ears burned. She hated gaps like that, so she quickly corrected herself, typing, your stupid fingers. His response was just as swift. Fluent in typo, knew what you meant. Her fingers stilled upon the keys, and she read that short missive several times over. The carroted brackets indicated that what he said was out of character, and the simple fact that he knew when to use those brackets made her believe there was a real person on the other side of the screen. But she could hardly credit her good fortune. She'd been playing Whimsy for months, ever since they'd kicked her from Hunter's Guild, and all that time she'd run only into 6 or 7 other people that she'd been certain were players in real time. Each of those had been cliquish as hell, intent upon their own business and unwilling to stop for more than a few moments to interact. Character briefly forgotten, she left Avila to stand staring at the demon across the binding magic of the circle. The avatar was placid, her own heart hammered. How long have you been playing? She asked. Since the beginning. You mean beta? She wrote, adding, I wish I'd seen this game at launch. It is not like it was, he admitted. You always play demons? His character did a saucy little half turn, another gesture Rashida hadn't realized was available in the game. She was so looking for these commands later. Avila needed them in her life, as did Rashida. Then the demon repeated his bow from earlier, deeper and courtly. Why wouldn't I? She typed, and a smile teased her lip in the real world. Beyond the bedroom door, Hunter's chair creaked noisily as he shifted position. Rashida could hear that and other subtler noises even through her earbuds. She cranked the volume. The ambient sound of the ritual chamber, plus occasional strands of haunting music, helped everything else around her disappear. The laptop was regrettably tiny, and she had to bring the screen closer to better study the details of his avatar. The developers of Whimsy had put a lot of effort into character design, and their demons were no exception. The shading was perfect, every muscle visible beneath his gleaming, tawny skin. He had a well-developed six-pack and even a little belly button. A light dusting of hair darkened his chest, and even on the lower resolution of the laptop, it was possible to see each individual strand decorating his pectorals. Your character looks great. I'm a fan, he replied, and hit the command that made his character preen. That one she knew. It was the hair flip on Avila, but varied between the races. For the demon, the character ran one hand through his hair, puffing out his chest. He finished by flexing his wings. Uplit by the screen in the narrow bedroom, Rashida's smile broadened to a delighted grin. Awesome, she wrote. They typed like that well into the early hours of the morning, chatting out of character and comparing everything they liked and didn't like about the game. Shortly after 3, she had to log off. She couldn't keep her eyes open anymore. He resumed his character of Marcosius long enough to bid her farewell. He made the avatar bow and reached for her hand from inside the circle, but Avila hadn't released him yet, so the magic force field crackled to keep them apart. Staying in character, he emoted about the limitation, having Marcosius mime the act of kissing from a distance, so that closer contact became both a tease and a promise. The language he used was lush and archaic and inspired a guilty little thrill that traveled to her to settle clenching pleasantly in her pelvis. Closing out of Whimsy, she powered down the laptop and scooched over to her side of the bed. Images of the tawny-skinned demon and his emerald-haired mistress chased her to sleep. She dreamed vividly of Avila and Marcosius. When Hunter finally stumbled from the living room, the dreams changed and turned sour. She felt she was awake beside him as a winged wolf thing nosed the door to the bedroom. On a lashing serpent's tail, it slithered to the foot of the mattress. Its breath was fire, and she jolted awake when it called her by name. If not for the nightmare, she would never have seen the time. Hunter had stayed up gaming without her until nearly 7:30. The next day, she swore she would confront him. She got up around noon and started cleaning everything. As she rehearsed how she would start and finish the needed conversation, the chores helped to soothe her. In between unpleasant thoughts of fights past and present, scintillating dream memories flashed like precious gems. Vivid snippets of the demon's muscled torso, the grand sweep of his wings, and Avila's fur-trimmed jerkin sliding noiselessly to the stones. When fragments of the nightmare threatened to intrude, she shoved them firmly to the back of her mind. The fire-breathing wolf thing was probably some screwed-up manifestation of her anger at Hunter anyway. Her boyfriend didn't drag himself awake until after 3, and when he did, he was starving. Naked except his boxers, he headed straight for the kitchen, frowning when he saw nothing on the stove. "Where's breakfast?" he asked. She put the Lysol wipes aside, sticky residue clinging to her fingers. She wiped them on her pants. "I was waiting till you got up," she said. "Well," he huffed, "I'm up." She reached to open the cupboards. Half a box of pancake mix sat behind loose packets of ramen and instant oatmeal. They really needed to get groceries. "Did you want anything in particular? The eggs are all gone." "What the hell?" he demanded. "Didn't we just buy 2 dozen?" He shoved his head into the refrigerator, searching. The cabbagey stink of rotting takeout wafted around him. "That was last week," she reminded, framing the correction gently, knowing he didn't like her contradictions. But he slammed the door to the fridge so hard, 3 of her decorative magnets clattered to the floor. The biggest of them shattered, a lavish dahlia painted by her mother. He kicked half the pieces under the fridge as he pushed out of the kitchen. He didn't stop to retrieve them. Dropping into his gaming chair, he double-tapped an icon and the opening fanfare for Blasteroid played. In that moment, she realized she hated that music. "I bet you ate already," he called. Straining to reach the broken pieces underneath the fridge, she pretended not to hear him. With the whir of the motor so close to her ears, it was easy. She pushed back onto hands and knees, grabbing the counter as she pulled herself upright. The shattered pieces of dahlia crumbled against her skin, little flecks of red paint and white plaster sticking among the creases in her palm. She didn't think there was a way to fix it. Of course she ate, he muttered. Bitch always eats. The milk from her cold cereal curdled in her belly, and she surprised herself by reaching up and slamming the doors to the cupboards. Hunter looked up, as shocked as she was by her sudden fury. We've got oatmeal, she said, voice loud and flat. She barely recognized it. It's instant. I'm going for groceries. You're not taking my car. I'll walk. He blinked. The headset coiled around his ear like an alien parasite. She could hear the other guildies buzzing through the wires like little flies, each demanding some explanation. Hunter waved a hand to shush them, as if any of them could see the stupid gesture. It's over a mile, he said. I don't care. And she didn't. The Oklahoma heat crushed against her like a hard, hot hand. She was soaked and stinking by the time she got back home, hair frizzed in every possible direction, but her head felt clearer. This was not working. It was a liberating revelation. Some of it was her fault, surely. She was terrible at making her point when things went wrong. She got so emotional. And maybe if she'd realized the problems sooner, she could have worked harder to fix them. She'd rushed too fast into the relationship. Maybe Hunter felt as trapped as she did. And maybe he doesn't give a shit as long as he's getting something, she thought bitterly. The grocery bags cut into her hands as she shouldered through the door. Hunter hunkered over his keyboard, fingers urgently tapping commands as explosions blazed across his monitor. He didn't move to help her, and she didn't ask, just swept into the little kitchen and started shoving things into the refrigerator. Milk, bread, eggs, a block of cheese, a pack of chocolate-covered donuts. Fuck him and his cracks about her weight. She was going to eat them all, and it would be glorious. She dug out a spare mouse for the laptop and shut herself in the bedroom with her donuts. If Hunter noticed, he said nothing. Fine by her. Whimsy beckoned. Marcosius stood in the circle exactly as she'd left him, golden skin gleaming in the light of eternal candles. Did you even sleep? She typed, afraid that he'd simply left his computer logged in. It would suck if he was away from the keyboard. She really needed the escape. A slow bead of sweat crawled the back of her scalp as the seconds dragged. She stared fixedly at the screen, willing him to be there. Finally, his character wiggled his fingers in greeting. What's sleep? He joked. She loosed a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. More damp trickled on her forehead, and she scrubbed furiously, trying to dry her fingers on the comforter. Lol, she typed. Insomnia's a bitch. Where were we? You were going to release me from this circle. The demon avatar surged forward, but was stopped by the energy of the magical barrier. A cascade of blue and silver light shimmered between their characters, distorting his features. No, Avila had not decided that yet. You should let me out, he typed. Was that pleading? If it was, she liked it. Some of the unpleasantness with Hunter faded as she considered how far she should push this. Convince me, she said. In answer, he dropped immediately into character, making his avatar pace restlessly within his prison. The lines of his sigil pulsed faintly with each footfall. Rashida could recite each in-game material she had been obliged to gather in order to scribe the lines of that symbol. Have you called me here to merely gawk upon my form? Marquisius demanded. I am, I admit, magnificent. In infernal hierarchies, I am a mighty marquis, but all my power is wasted if you keep me in bondage. He entered the command that made his character flex, the great span of his wings evoking a rain of sparks where they brushed along the circle's edges. Rashida smiled to herself. The mouse let her move Avila more smoothly, and she slowly strode across the length of the chamber to show how deeply she was thinking about the possibilities he represented. Finally, she made her character do the little hair flip, turning back to Marcosius. I rather like you in bondage, my demon. She had a spell that would hold him in chains for the span of a few seconds, and briefly considered using it for effect. The coiled links would be a lovely sight against that tawny, muscled skin. I do find your form to be pleasing. I wear this skin especially for you, he answered. My true face, I fear, is frightful, and you would not love me. Avila turned her head to the side in a way that suggested casual disinterest. Rashida hadn't done that intentionally. It was one of the game's pre-programmed fidgets, randomized to give the character a feel of greater life, but it was perfect. Few of us are exactly what we seem, Demon, she said. Do you think such threats will impress me? You misunderstand, my lady. I only seek freedom, he wrote. You called me for some purpose, surely. Are you not lonely? The question could easily have been flirtation, but it felt more like he could see her, a sad figure curled in a dark room, alone on a two-person bed. Tears came hot and without warning. She scowled through the blur at her keyboard, angry at herself for crying. Avila's glib bravado escaped her completely, and she just scrubbed her eyes, sniffling. You okay? His concern was palpable. She started typing an answer, but her fingers fumbled and all the words came out wrong. Furiously, she backspaced. She could barely see the screen. You can tell me. Irrationally, she felt him beside her. A quiet presence, subtle, stabilizing. Pure fantasy, of course, but it helped lessen the bleak emptiness of the room. With desperate indulgence, she imagined the flesh of him, warm and solid. Her face pressed to the strength of his shoulder, his arms both tender and protective. Hunter hadn't touched her like that for weeks, and with a hunger she missed it. Wish we could talk face to face, she wrote. Really need a friend right now. Let me out of the circle, Rashida, he responded. The name jolted her. She'd never typed it, never even implied it in all their deep discussions the other night. Avila was her escape hatch, useful especially because she wasn't Rashida and never could be. And she wasn't an idiot. She knew the dangers of the internet, stalkers, hackers, serial killers who chose their victims through online hookups. Every cautionary tale she'd ever heard suddenly seemed plausible. And then she fixed upon the simplest and most mortifying of solutions. Is that you, Hunter? No, he typed. Then, you called me. How could I not know you? Gooseflesh shivered down her arms in such regimented lumps she looked like a plucked turkey. She shoved the laptop, scooting off the bed so fast she took half the comforter with her. The computer tilted precariously and she nudged it so it didn't fall but furtively, like it had an infection. Rushing to the door, she peered out into the living room. Hunter would be there, grinning nastily behind his computer desk, ready to tell her how pathetic jealousy had made her. But the living room was dark and empty. Hunter? It came out a squeak. She licked her lips and tried again, fingers slick against the brass of the door handle. The name rang hard and flat against the walls crowded with bookshelves. She dared to take a step beyond the bedroom, only half conscious that she'd been gripping the door like some kind of plywood shield. It wasn't a big apartment. She checked the kitchen, the bathroom, even the closets. No Hunter. His computer was off, and when she put her hand on the tower, it was cooling. Unsettled and bewildered, she never considered that he might have left her. Marcosius dragged her thoughts like a gravity well. Her curiosity couldn't escape him. Maybe he was someone from the guild playing Whimsy out of pity or to punk her. How awful would it be to spill her guts about Hunter, only to have all those secret agonies spread across the whole guild site where everyone would mock them? And then another thought occurred to her, so beyond the realm of possibility that it held a certain wild allure. What if Marcosius really was a demon? You're losing it, girl, she chided herself. So far around the bend, you have found the other side. But wouldn't it be amazing? Breathless and terrible and a little transgressive. Haltingly, she stepped back into the bedroom. The laptop angled on a fold and the comforter twisted in her exit so the screen partly faced the doorway. The golden-skinned demon stood beckoning from his circle, crimson eyes lasered in her directions. You better tell me how you know me, she typed. You called me. Sure, she wrote, you're really a demon. Release me from the circle, I will prove it. She couldn't muster a comeback. The air in the room bent and grew heavy like tattered wings draped around her shoulders. Her vision pinholed on that white on black chat bubble and all the unlikely magic that it promised. She could almost smell Marcosius now, a startling mix of musk and clove and cinder. All the spit abandoned her mouth and her heart raced until its throb wavered like a caged thing seeking escape from the prison of her ribs. Gotta go, she wrote. She slammed the screen of the laptop before he could dare to answer. She tried to lose herself in a book, but all she had was paranormal romance. That wasn't helping, so she logged into her desktop to scour the internet. Every site on demons or demonology that looked at least a little legit, she read. She even skimmed the sketchy ones, and Marcosius, he was on all of them. He was one of the 72 demons supposedly connected with the Bible's King Solomon. A book called the Goetia held sigils for summoning them. She found a copy of it hosted on a website and scrolled straight to the entry on Marcosius. She couldn't drag her eyes from the screen. The sigil from the demonic text was identical to the one her character had learned in Whimsy. Stranger than that was his description. Serpent's tail, head of a wolf, griffin's wings. When he appeared, he vomited flame, just like the beast in her nightmare. But she couldn't have known that. She'd never read any of these books before, had simply assumed the sigil and name were both created by Whimsy's developers. She did an image search for Marcosius and found something that looked so close to the wolf thing from her dream that she almost couldn't look at it. Impulsively, she saved it to her desktop. The door slammed, and she startled so hard she nearly peed a little. Hunter was home. Guiltily, she alt-tabbed out of all the demon stuff and did her best to ignore the presence of her boyfriend. But it was a small apartment, and he came right over. She smelled the pizza before he set the oily box on the desk next to her, shoving some of her books aside so it wouldn't tip onto the floor. Brought you dinner, he said. Awkwardly, he held out a single hothouse rose, likely bought at the corner gas station. I was kind of a dick earlier. Rashida shoved away from her computer, the casters of her desk chair catching on the carpet. This always happened. He'd pull some shit that royally pissed her off, then once he had a little time to think about it, he'd do something random and hopelessly endearing. She tried to cling to her revelation from earlier, but the shock at seeing the wolf thing had already scattered most of her anger. Go on, he insisted. His smile was lopsided. Take it. You got to stop being so sensitive, Rashi. You know I care about you. Grudgingly, she accepted the flower. The rose was bruised and smelled weirdly of glass cleaner. She pressed it to her nose anyway. It was a start for an apology. We good? He asked, flipping open the box to reach for a slice of pizza. The bacon, sausage, and pepperoni glistened with juices. You walked all the way to Hammond's and back in that heat. I couldn't believe it. He caught a cheesy wad of pepperoni before it slid to the floor, a blob of red sauce nested in his beard. You know I talk shit, baby, but I never really mean it. She set the flower aside, hesitating before taking her own piece from the pizza box. Strands of molten cheese adhered to the cardboard. Can we discuss that, maybe? She ventured. She searched around for a napkin. I feel like we've forgotten how to talk. He dropped into his own chair at the desk across from hers, disappearing behind the arc of the monitor. Come on, babe, let's not ruin this moment. He peeked around the obstruction and shot her that goofy smile again. Why don't we eat? Maybe play something, see how the rest of the night goes. Sure, she answered. Just hold on a sec. Lofting her slice of pizza well away from the keyboard, she closed out completely from the Goetia. Her mouse hovered over the wolf thing image, then she dragged it into the trash bin. That wasn't Marcosius. Marcosius, the player, was just a gamer like she was, human and depressingly ordinary on the other side of his screen. What are you up for? Hunter asked. There's a seasonal event in Dune Strider, double XP for the rest of the weekend. How about we both roll new characters and just smash the starting zone? That's the one where you've been asleep for millennia and wake up in a post-apocalyptic future? He nodded, already booting up. Sure, she said. I'll need to update, but that sounds fine. She spent the rest of the night gaming with Hunter. It reminded her of the fun they used to have just hanging out together. He had work in the morning, so they went to bed early. On their sagging mattress, she curled next to him. She felt cautiously hopeful. If she put enough work into it, maybe she could mend the cracks in their relationship. On Tuesday, he hit her. It was over the stupidest thing. She'd burned dinner. He opened his hand at the last instant, slapping instead of striking, but her ears rang and her cheeks stung, and she was certain it would bruise come morning. When it happened, she stood there staring. They both did, but then he started spouting excuses, apologies, rationalizations. She heard none of them. The thunder of blood was in her ears. Blood and a calm, bright fury. She moved to get past him and out of the kitchen. She already knew what she wanted. He shifted to block her way, holding his hands to show he wouldn't strike her a second time, as if that was any kind of promise. She shoved as hard as she could, and though it didn't do much to move him, it shocked him into moving himself. That was enough. She marched straight for the bedroom, locking the door behind her. He pounded from the other side, demanding she open it, calling her stupid. She had to come out sometime, he said. This wasn't solving anything. But her solution sat closed and waiting on the nightstand. The laptop led to Whimsy, and Whimsy led to Marcosius. And maybe, if the world were as kind as it was cruel, Marcosius could offer some justice. That was one of the things she'd learned when reading about demons. A lot of those 72 spirits solved problems for the people bold enough to summon them. They tracked thieves, hunted murderers, punished the unfaithful. Abusive boyfriends weren't named explicitly on the list, but Marcosius's entry had said that he was loyal. With Hunter prying at the doorknob, she booted up Whimsy and logged into her alter ego. Avila still stood in the subterranean chamber, the circle of summoning glimmering before her. The candle shine on her rich purple skin was beautiful, but not half as captivating as the tawny being lounging on the stones marked with his sigil. Fully aware of her scrutiny, the demon's head tilted to meet Rashida's eyes in the real world. This time he didn't bother slipping into character. You return, my lady. The words blazed in his white on black chat bubble, but she heard him too, like the sound of distant thunder. I've been waiting. I know, she whispered as she typed. I have something for you to do. Fluidly, he rose to his feet, peering up at her from the confines of the video game. But he wasn't just there, and they both knew it. Clove and musk and cinder filled every corner of the room. Hunter pounded the door, oblivious. The air tightened, then trembled, perched upon the lip of the impossible. I am your willing servant. He bowed his head, catching her gaze from under thick lashes. But you know you must release me first. Rashida wet her lips, nodding. She thought of the past 10 months with Hunter and all the time before that, believing she would die before ever finding someone who could love her. Lightly, she touched her cheek, feeling the stinging heat that lingered from Hunter's strike. There would definitely be a bruise tomorrow. I release you, she said. She didn't bother to type it. She spoke it aloud and clearly in a voice that did not waver. Something in the room shifted, shivered, then cascaded in a burst of light. A sound like the tearing of canvas rippled through the air. The door shook as if a great beast leapt against it. She was surprised to feel nothing when Hunter began to scream.
Ah, that was nice.
Wow.
Two very different stories. Two very different stories, but both of them very intimate in different ways. I enjoyed the combination.
Yeah.
Ah, thank you both. This has been just a riveting evening. We need to get to wrap up now, but I did want to let everybody know that next week is also going to be fantastic. We have Jennifer Hudak and Gwendolyn Keist. So yes, that is also going to be a really great evening. And I do recommend checking storyhour2020.com to see if we have any changes upcoming. One thing I can let you know is that we will have a guest host, Valerie Valdez, because Daniel is going to be off becoming a cyborg. And it's going to be super fun. So storyhour2020.com is a great place to go and see also about what authors are upcoming. And if you go to the Story Hour page on Facebook, you can watch this Story Hour a few more times. Watch any you may have missed. Meg Ellison and RJ Joseph were really amazing last week.
Oh yeah, they were fantastic.
But the news cycle kind of ate a lot of things that people might otherwise take time to enjoy. So if you feel like, cutting away from the doom scrolling for another hour, that's another good one to spend. So thank you all very much for joining us at our Writer Buddies. Please be good to each other. Be good to the people far away who you haven't met yet. We're all worth it. Thank you for joining us at Story Hour. Good night.
Night, everybody.